Hey Art 4 students, you know how I really want you guys to do a mini mural? It's kind of one of the cool things I think Art 4 gets to do. It's really unfortunate that we closed. I'm really hoping that we come back and we have enough time to do this mini mural. I'm going to operate under the assumption that we do. And so this first distance learning project that I want you to do is to make a design for that mini mural. So I'm going to go over the things that I want you to do to make this design, okay? The first thing, I'm just going to go over the steps right now. The first thing that we're going to do is answer brainstorming questions to try to get you thinking artistically. And then going to create a mind map, and that might be a funny term for you, but we're going to create a mind map as another brainstorming tool, just to get our mind thinking of different topics and things, and it fills our mind with ideas so that we can come up with something unique and different and original, okay? Then, gonna come up with 4 thumbnail sketches, also as a brainstorming and design tool. And thumbnail sketches are really just super quick, pretty simple sketches that don't have a lot of detail. They're really just for ideas. I'm going to actually have you submit those thumbnail sketches so that I can look them over and that we can kind of have a back and forth about the process, and I can give you feedback and ideas, and that we can share and learn from each other. Then after that, going to do some research. So if different parts of your design require you to have resource images, or if you need to better understand how something looks, then you're going to do research to make that happen for your project. Then going to create a rough draft to the exact scale of what the blocks are in my classroom, and so I'll tell you what those measurements are. And for this rough draft, it's just a line drawing, so there's no shading and no color, just a line drawing. But you want to try to make the line drawing pretty much what you want to see. We're going to submit that again so that I can give you feedback, and we can share. And then after that process, you'll take the rough draft and you'll create your final draft, and you'll just trace whatever you can from the rough draft onto the final draft. You can use a window to do that, or a screen so that you can have light showing through. But even though you're going to trace, you can also make any changes to the design in this process too, adding detail or making changes, adjusting things. And then we're going to go through a process of adding color, and there's going to be stuff I talk about to do the color as well, so I'll get to that later. And then submit your design for final feedback and sharing, and then give you one last chance to edit. That's the plan. Of course, plans can change and be adjusted, so just be aware, like, this is the idea of the process that we'll go through, but things might change here or there as I find out that it's necessary to do that. Okay? So here's what your project needs to have right now. You need to have form. And if you don't know what form means, it means something that is three-dimensional. It's obviously going to be an illusion of form, so the way that you paint it is going to suggest that the things in your painting are three-dimensional. You're going to have multiple values, so black is a value, white is a value, dark gray, medium gray, light gray are all values, and each color on the color wheel has its own range of values, just like black and white. So there should be multiple values. And some of these things go hand in hand. So form, multiple values. The third one, shading, blending, shadows, highlights, and gradations in value. All of these go along with creating form, using multiple values. Contrast. That's the difference between two things. So often when we're talking about art, it's the difference between dark and light. But it can also be the difference between a fluffy texture and a rough texture, or it could be big versus small. For my requirement, I'm specifically talking about dark versus light and color versus color. So a color versus a very different color next together. But I also kind of want you to have that awareness that contrast can mean the difference between other things in art too. Okay, and then texture. You need to have texture in there. So not everything is going to be perfectly smooth. You know, there's going to be some kind of texture in there. So like an example would be trying to create the rough texture of tree bark or of grass. And so you use different lines and marks of dark and light colors to create textures. You can also be expressive and inventive with your textures, and they don't always have to be a realistic subject. So if you think back to the abstract portrait that you did at the beginning of the year, it's kind of like that. I tried to get you guys to create different inventive marks to create different textures. Number 6, complexity, details, and finishing touches. I've said this often, but we're all at different stages of development and skill, and that is okay. But I want you to push yourself to create something that is complex for you and that has detail. And when you get to a certain stage of the project, you're going to be really focusing on adding finishing touches to make it just that much better. And then using the space wisely. So it's a small area that you're going to create this artwork in, and so really want to use that area wisely and pack as much visual impact into it as you can. Okay? Okay, so here's your actual assignment for this first step, and that's brainstorming questions. I call them targeted questions here. So I'm going to ask you some questions, but then I'm going to ask you to come up with your own question that you can share with the group in the Google class, okay? Some kind of brainstorming question that helps us think creatively, okay? So here's the questions that I have, and I do want you, when you answer these questions, I want you to post them to the group too, again, so that we can all benefit. So, first question, and these are the ones I came up with, so I want you to come up with one as well as answering these. First one, in your opinion, what are the 2 most important things for you to express or achieve in your artwork? Do you really like to try to achieve realism, making things look as realistic as possible? Do you like to create artwork that has some humor involved? Or you just like to create something that's you think is beautiful? Is originality really important to you? Is expressing emotions or ideas the most important? So I want you to circle or list 2 of those. And so you're going to actually answer that question and post it to the thread in Google Class where this assignment will be posted, okay? Number 2, what genre of movie are you most likely to watch? So, action, fantasy, sci-fi, comedy, romance, drama, or is there another one that I'm forgetting that you are more likely to watch? You might be wondering why I'm asking you that question. It's just because, you know, it kind of gets us thinking about things that we care about and that we're drawn to. What do you hope others see about you? So, you know, just what qualities about your character or person do you hope others appreciate or notice? And that particular question you can keep private. You don't have to answer in the Google Classroom thread. The same thing for number 4. What is something you often daydream about? 3 and 4 are a little bit more on the personal side, so you don't have to answer those ones publicly in the Google Classroom unless you want to. If you'd like to answer those and show those, that's perfectly fine as well, assuming it's appropriate. When you look at others' artwork, what is a quality you really enjoy seeing? So figure out what that thing is. For me, it's usually some interesting combination of different subjects together, or something a little bit weird. I like seeing things that are not really a part of the real world, but that are realistic in a way. So that's me, though. Abstract, realistic, or some combination of both? What would you be drawn to, or what are you more likely to go for? Or what do you want to challenge yourself in? And then 7, what are some unusual subject matter combinations you can come up with? So I have an example of a killer whale and a rainbow. You take those two things, how can you combine those two things together? A person and a light bulb, how can those two things be combined together in a weird way? A dinosaur and an astronaut, how can I combine those together? And so I want you to come up with 3 different combinations. You don't have to say necessarily how you're going to combine them together, just what would be a few unusual combinations. Again, I want you to post your answers to question 1, 2, 5, 6, and 7. And then you have your option of posting your answers to 3 and 4 as well. But you don't have to. And then, in addition to answering these questions, I want you to post your own question for the group. Again, it's really all about helping us all think creatively. Since we don't have, since we're not together in the classroom physically, to where we can kind of like learn from each other just from watching what others are doing and having conversations, this is how we're going to try to do it, okay? So I'd really like you guys to be involved and post some of your thoughts to the Google Classroom. Okay, so that was my experiment making this video, and it was really awkward and it feels really weird to do this video, but I hope it was fairly clear. I hope you have a fairly good idea of what you're supposed to do at the moment. There will be more instructions to come and possibly more videos to come to help clarify where we go from here. But the first step is for you to answer those questions and post them and come up with your own question. Okay, thanks guys.